This is the A to Z podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, at Akron Jackson, at Dre Knott on most of your favorite social media platforms. A to Z podcast.com, facebook.com/A to Z podcast. Thanks for coming. Shout out, as always, to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks, AmericanFireworks.com for helping to make this happen. Shout out to you guys for helping it grow. Totally honest note here as we get started, and this just came to me. Over at The Athletic, we've launched a Browns podcast, and, getting these things off the ground is not easy. And the producer there celebrating some milestones as we've hit as people have subscribed. So, A, I hope you click on over and subscribe to Civilized Barking. But B, Dre, just some of the milestone numbers that we've been celebrating makes me really appreciate, how many people listen, how much feedback we get here. It's really hard to grow a local/regional podcast. And we really appreciate you guys listening and sticking with us as we have this unconventional schedule. And I guess what I'm asking is, baseball season's still really going on?
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. But you know what? It's odd at the same time when you're in the midst of it, because we all know that the heck is less than 2 weeks left. And I would compare it, it's just like a school year, right? Like you can't wait till the school year is over. You can't wait to be a senior year. And then that last week and a half, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do when school's over? It's kind of that point. The Indians are going to win over 90 games, and we have no idea where we're going, where we're not going, what we're going to be doing. Like, honestly, on our travel, we've been told basically when we leave next Monday to go to Chicago, be prepared for anything. Like, be prepared to leave Washington on the 29th to go to Tampa, to go to Oakland. And maybe even bring an extra couple pair of underwear, because you might have to go to New York or Houston after that if things get really crazy. So, baseball still.
I don't think about much.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you don't, but that's where we're at right now. We're literally been told when we pack to pack for possibly 4 cities, possibly 3 cities, but we know we're going to 2 cities.
Yeah,
so that's a lot of fun.
Well, at least they're playing the Tigers this week, right? So there's a chance to build some momentum and make it interesting. And really, look, we say this all the time.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we sit here right now. They're a half game out, 2.5 out of the first place in wild card. It's crazy.
Yeah, and this kind of applies to Sunday, where I'm not sure the Browns can beat the Rams, but it damn sure is fun to have Sunday night football in town, right? Like, you just got to enjoy this, right? If you're a fan.
Yeah, well, we told everybody moderation, but like you said, you got to enjoy it. I mean, they're not favorites. It's only 3 points last time I checked. I thought it would be 6, but maybe the win on Monday night changed some of the gamblers. Maybe Vegas wants all of you idiots to run to whoever your bookie is or wherever you go to try to put a bet in. But 3 points seems attainable, and I'll say this: if Myles Garrett can do more plus than minuses, I feel like you got a chance, right? I mean, when you got one of the best defensive players in the game that can hit the quarterback and kill the quarterback literally and figuratively, and I'm not condoning that or wishing upon that, but if they can't block him, and Andrew Whitworth is as old as me and got more gray hair than me, that means you got a chance, right?
Dre don't lie except when he does. No, Myles is having a season on many fronts, that's for sure. I want to stick with baseball for a second, though, while I put my Browns thoughts together, because it's early in the morning and my internet is down. Congrats, AT&T. We've done this dance before. Anyway. Yeah, this podcast was supposed to be done last night. You guys are supposed to wake up. And I'm not trying to have a funeral for him. We don't know what's going to happen. But Jason Kipnis is a guy I know that you're close with behind the scenes. You've butted heads with behind the scenes. He's been really good at times. He made a lot of money. He's been difficult years. He came back this year, and he's had a good year. And that's been a part of the Indians' resurgence, right? And now he's out. We know what's ahead for him, which is free agency. So I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk about the blow that is among many that this team has taken. But, without doing his eulogy, just kind of what Kip has meant to this team.
Hey, you know what? It's funny you say the word eulogy, because, I mean, we all know the writing on the wall. He's very, and the reason why you said it very well, the relationship Kip and I have had, we are tight, but we've always been. The one thing I can say about him, we've always been honest to a fault with each other, which means sometimes, and for most of you guys, if you don't have real friends, you don't know what it's like to be completely honest with somebody, and that means sometimes you may feel like you hate each other, but really you just respect each other to a point. because you don't have to pull punches with each other. And I think that's the one thing about Kip. He isn't always right, but he stands for what he stands for. And usually he's pretty honest and usually up front with things. He admits that he's not perfect. And look, it's hard for us to do in sports, but we don't do it in really many other places. But we got to stay. We always talk about staying out of people's checkbooks. And just because with athletes, we know how much money they make. A lot of times we judge them off of how much money they make, which is probably unfair because it's not his fault that they were willing to give it to him. And none of us, and all of us would have done the same thing if they would have given him the contract. Has he lived up to the contract? That's a conversation for later on, in my opinion, because he's a two-time All-Star. And I think sometimes forget the numbers, and I think you just hit on this. Some of the things he's done in the last 2 years, forget the numbers and forget what you see. And I know that's hard for fans. You judge off the numbers, and that makes perfect sense. But there's so much more to the game than just batting average, home runs, doubles, triples, RBIs. Are you a leader? Do you show up every day? Do you complain? Do you put other guys in place? Do you find a way to show young guys how to play the game? And I think for the most part, all of that is there with Kip. And like you said, I don't want to write it completely off, but I think we all know what inevitably is coming, most likely. And it's just, to me, and I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but between the Jose injury and this one, and I don't know why, those are the two for me that have kind of made me say this. I don't even want to say what I'm going to say, but it's the truth. Those two injuries just make me say, do you really like what your chances are just, I'm not saying Kipnis was the difference in making this, making the World Series or not, but the Jose injury has been very hurtful. And the Kipnis one is too. And you just said it. Those are the two guys that turned the season around in my eyes. When those two started hitting in late May, the season changed completely, and we'll see. It's unbelievable just how many guys they've lost. And I think the thing I'll say about this is, and we'll wrap baseball with this, the Indians are probably going to win 95 games. They may be one, and I mean, 90, think about that, 95 games. But if you read Twitter, you listen to radio, they're the worst team that anyone's ever seen. I know baseball is topsy-turvy, but when you win 95 games, you've done your job. Now,
we were arguing this at the bar the other day, and we couldn't find it on a quick Google, and maybe being at the bar had something to do with it. Is there precedent? Has a team ever won 95 and not gotten in the wild card?
Yeah, I mean, well, remember back in the day when you just had 4 teams that made the playoffs before the wild card.
Right. We were talking about this new format. We couldn't find it.
Oh, the new format? In the new format, I'm pretty sure it has it. Yeah. But that just, it just tells you that's the type of year it is. They're going to win 95. They're going to win 95, 94 games. And if I would have told you back in March that they were going to win 95 games, you would have laughed at me. As a matter of fact, I know there was an over-under in Vegas that Camino, who shouldn't tweet, was talking about. And I'm telling you, nobody thought they were going to win over 89. I think 88 or 89. And they haven't done it yet.
90 and a half, I remember it. Yeah.
All right, yeah, 90 and a half. And they're going to do that. And if I would have and think about the money we could have made if I would have said Carrasco's going to miss half the season, Kluber's basically going to miss all the season, Kipnis is going to miss over a month, Lindor over a month, Ramirez over a month, Clevenger over a month. Hand's now been down. I don't know how they've done it, Zach. I mean, it's and like I said, I get it. If you don't make the playoffs, you're a loser, and no one wants to hear it. We always say you either get the chip or you get the Jordan face, and unfortunately, they're probably going to get the Jordan face. But this might be the best Jordan face that you could ever get in team sports, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you win 95 and don't get in, then you don't even need to dive into the circumstances, right? That's a kick in the junk, right? That's not supposed to happen that way, right? It's just
it's a great way to put the whole season. This season's been a kick in the junk.
Yeah,
it really has. And on one hand, maybe all of us, because we've gone to the playoffs a couple of years in a row, and maybe because you feel like you have one of the best players, and maybe because we know the clock is ticking on how long he's here, I think we've kind of changed the thought process on baseball. You know what I mean? Like literally, it was like, all right, well, we got to go to the playoffs. We got to win as long as we have Frankie. And I think everyone has that thought process. I'll say this, and me and the CFO were discussing this last night, and you know how conversations go with the CFO.
Long.
Yeah. No matter what he's doing, it is long. But him and I tend to agree with something. Now, this is big on Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff. But if they make a couple of the right moves, and we don't got to get into them because the season isn't over, 2020 could be a big year for the Indians. When you consider their starting pitching and how no one else has any. Does that mean, you know what I'm like? If they make a couple moves, get a couple bats, and whether they move Jose to second or Jose stays at third, and you get a competent third base or whatever, and you grow with some of these younger players, maybe you move a guy like Plesac to the bullpen, and maybe you have Karinchak, Plesac, and Hand in the bullpen suddenly to build around. Who knows where you put Cookie? Who knows? But you've got pitching wise what every team in baseball wants going into 2020. What they do with the rest of it, we'll see. But the possible final year of Lindor could be very special come next year.
Well, all I know is that baseball season is 10.5 months long, so we'll have that magical 6-week off-season period to go ahead and talk more about that. So,
Before we get to the
you said it, Dre. As we transition here, I mean, the Indians going back 4 years now. Anyway, they're in a position to where if they don't win a championship, it's a disappointment to some level, and that's how they're great. Right? That's just how it is. Like you mentioned with Kipnis in the contract. Once a guy starts making that money, he is graded. There are obviously 18 different circumstances on what really goes on, but the fact is when teams invest in player, any team, not just the Indians who have obvious financial limitations, though most times you're not going to win if those guys don't produce to their salary number, whether it's injury, whether it's off field, whether it's slump, whatever it is, right? That's just how this goes because this is a business. And we're judging the Browns right now refreshingly on a different scale than we have in many, many years.
Yeah.
Right? Because they have talent. And right now, the Browns 2 games in are 1-1, which is fine. And they are a talented group of individuals who have a long way to go. And that's fine because it's mid-September. And I know the Patriots look like they're going to beat everybody by 70 and win the Super Bowl. I know the Rams are coming in here, and there's no Super Bowl hangover. They're still a freaking machine. I told somebody last week I'm a little bit worried that Sean McVay against Freddie Kitchens is me against the Swenson's cheeseburger, but we'll get more into that. You're judging the Browns on a scale because you have expectations. And you've seen Miles, the flashes, right? He's got to eliminate the penalties. He's got to clean it up. Don't whine to me about the roughing the passer rules. I know they're bullshit. The fact is they tell every single player they're going to call them that way, and it's worked both ways.
The rules are, the rules are the rules. We all know them. We all know them. Jamal
Adams blasts Baker as Baker's releasing the ball the other night, and the flag comes out, no hesitation, right? They know when you hit the quarterback that it's going to come out, right? It's just it's how it is. It's how it's going to be.
It's the game.
So
it's
look,
the game.
So here's where I think the Browns are, guys. Nowhere near where they need to be. And again, that's not alarming. They need to be better. We know the next 5 teams they play have started 2-0. We know who the Rams are. Baltimore has beaten up a couple of Portage County teams, but Lamar's confidence is growing. We know the Ravens are always going to be good defensively. They're always going to be good at home. That's scary as hell. That's one a lot of people laughed at in the summer when the lines came out and Baltimore was 3.5. And you see that these guys know. Right. Right. But look, so the defense has had one clunker in one absolutely dominating effort against a really awful, overmatched team, but you need to dominate in those. You need Kirksey and Schobert to make plays because you don't have any other linebackers and because they're in the middle of the defense and they have to make those. I thought it was the best game Christian Kirksey's played in 3 years. I know it was only 4 tackles unofficially. The guy was all over the field. They need a healthy Christian Kirksey. And they did this without Demarius Randall. Olivier Vernon has one stat in 2 games. We know he's a good player. It'll come.
Hoban could have beat that Jets team, so let's not throw a parade.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. There's going to be times while you figure things out offensively that you're going to need your defense to dominate, right? Especially over these next few weeks.
No doubt.
Because if you're going to beat the Rams or the Ravens, you're going to have to turn them over, right? You're going to have to put them in third 21. And then when you get this great field position, and shout out to the punter, he's been awesome. He won AFC Special Teams Player of the Week.
AFC Player of the Week. Yeah.
When you get, you can argue all you want about people being upset over a 20-point win or how badly they could have beat the Jets or whatever. Adam Gase gifted the Browns a little bit in one situation. When you have that much good field position over the course of the game, you're supposed to get a lot more points, right? And so
hey,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, they won the game first and foremost, and I think, and here's the deal, and I think I don't know why this is, and I'm really having to stay away from Twitter for the most part. But they won the game, and it is a step as a fan and in fandom that you can critique how a team wins.
Yes.
And because and you know what I mean. Like, it's a part of it. It's a part of it. But at the end of the year, for the most part, the growth will be seen. We'll see and know the growth. Whether it's how do they use Chubb. And I think those are some of the things where I see where I pay attention, where you get frustrated. You get frustrated because Baker Mayfield's throwing in the fourth quarter in a game that he has no business throwing in the fourth quarter, and he's getting a hit. Now, on one hand, they were bad on third down conversions, and I can see in a coach's view, and maybe this is Freddie finding his learning curve, because Freddie has never been a head coach. Let's be honest. And Freddie and that Swenson's burger sounds great, and I may have Swenson's for lunch just because you brought that up, because now I'm hungry, and it's 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I barely slept. But is Freddie trying to find his way with calling plays and what he needs to do? Does he have to take his emotions out sometimes and go, all right, we've won this game. Let's move on. Let's get past it. Let's just run out the clock, rather than being stubborn and saying we're going to throw on 3rd and 7 and get this first down. Those are things that I question. The other thing is, when you talk about the defense, and you're right about Christian. The thing you just said about Christian Kirksey, so dead on. I don't even care about the stats. I care that he was always around the ball. Now, that plays into the Jets having to play a mediocre offense. They didn't have any of their players. They're playing a third-string quarterback that's bounced around. We watched him bounce around at Washington State when he was at Washington State. So that plays into that game. That game was, I don't want to say it was dummied down, but when you're on your second quarterback, third quarterback, you can't run half the stuff that you have. A lot of that was just get the ball to your best player, who sat out all of last year and who looked gassed by the time Schobert made him fumble in the fourth quarter. But those two linebackers have to play big. I was going to ask you about Mack Wilson before you even brought that up, because as much as he was the man during he was all Berea, right? Like during training camp. But you can tell now the season's turned. It's much different. So I love Freddie still. I love listening to Freddie's press conferences. There's times during games, though, I want to pull him to the side and ask him, what in God's name is he doing? Yeah. That's my frustrating thing. But the defense has to dominate. And we said this, our number one, I'm not going to let us forget this. When we did our Browns preview or whatever else, the number one thing we said they had going for them has been the number one thing going for them through the first 2 weeks. If they beat the Rams, it's because Myles Garrett scares Jared Goff. That scares him right off of Lake Erie, right? That's how they have to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I thought what Freddie did late in the game was strictly arrogance, right? And whether it was personal with Greg or it was just wanting to get Baker, not confidence, but, one more, like you right. said, the third down conversion rate is putrid, but you can't worry about those things, right? Just like they can't worry about outsiders nitpicking a 20-point win. A win's a win. You're on the scoreboard.
Right.
You get on that plane with everybody healthy or pretty close, and you go home. That's what really counts. So, that was that. And this whole team has to grow up and grow in. Other than the defense, the most encouraging thing is what you saw is that number 13 is always a play away from changing the game. And over the course of the season, when you play better teams, like when you play San Fran on Monday night and play Seattle the next week, these games are going to be decided by 3 plays, right? In regard to field position, in regard to not taking a stupid penalty, in regard to converting a third down, and maybe just in the middle of the field that keeps the drive alive, but certainly one that allows you to get 7 instead of 3. Those are the times you have to win the little things, and you have to get those plays to go your way, and then it sets up for this guy to make one catch on a 6-yard slant and turn it into a big play that can shift the whole season, because boy, oh boy, Dre, the talent is still there.
Yeah, 13 is he's something else, man. I mean, the one-handed catch, I don't care. Like, look, there's going to be podcasts that you hear from us, and this is just the reality of sports and the reality of life, people. So don't call me a hater. Don't call me a lover. I'm none of the above. I'm a human being, just like he is. There will be podcasts where we're going to send him to Canton next week, and there's going to be podcasts where we're going to try to send him back to New York in 2 days, right? But when he makes that one-handed catch, I mean, but that's just the real. Like, I want us just to be real as people. I mean, we all make mistakes. We all think certain things. We all see certain things, and he's going to drive us crazy. Whether it's putting on a $2 million watch in pregame, I find it sophomoric. I'm wearing the watches and then being an asshole about it, and not. That's not team oriented. That's me. That's more, and then to blame it on everybody else. I can't stand shit like that, to be completely honest. It drives me insane. And then when you see his talent, you see his ability, you get it, because we treat people like that differently than we treat the guy that's got a grind. It just is. But when he catches that ball with one hand to start the game off, and it's almost in the same corner as he caught the one again on Sunday night versus the Cowboys, it takes your breath away, because you go, holy shit, that guy's on our side. And then when he tops it off with the 89-yard touchdown, I mean, let's be honest. There's just not a lot of guys that can catch that ball and scoot the way he scooted away from everybody and just end the game. There's game changers, I think of Randy Moss when I see a play like that. Where Randy Moss, you could shut him down for Randy Moss could play when he wanted to play. He could straight cash, homie. We can think of all the negative things, but he took your breath away when it mattered most. He could scare your defense out of playing the way your defense wanted to play, because you knew he could take the top off at any time. When you have 13 on your side, and you saw it the other night, it takes the aggressiveness out of a defense when you have a guy that good. But also, I think it's taking the aggressiveness of what the offense should be doing the right way from Freddie.
Bingo.
I think
Bingo.
Chubb. I think Chubb is the best thing you got, and not taking advantage of Chubb and feeding him the ball and getting him 20 touches a game bothers me. I understand that 13 is dynamic and he changes everything. But to me, until you feed Chubb, and even to a certain extent, and Landry hasn't bitched, and Tom Reed wrote a great article in The Athletic about just Jarvis Landry and everything that comes with him, and how he's been a great blocker and how he's willing to return punts. I love the story. But there's got to be a way to find a way to get him more involved as well. Now, at the end of the day, Odell's numbers look great on Monday night, right? But you look at the rest of the offense, and it's just like you're looking for that balance, I guess is the word I'll use.
Well, let me put it this way. Here's the way I look at it with the offense right now. And God knows everybody in my Twitter mentions is a coach. The quick rhythm passing game hasn't been there, right? I think some of it is timing / play calling. Some of it is what we said last week, where the defense is taking away Baker's first read. They want to know. And, of course, that's what happens in the NFL. They're going to challenge you. These guys get paid too. And the Browns have played two pretty good defenses, right? And I think Greg, for the most part, the other night should be proud, and God knows he will be, of the way he did that. But something, Dre, what Chubb or no Chubb, analytics or no analytics, Baker's going to get caught forcing the ball to 13. And you know what? To me, that's human nature more than anything else, because of course you should, right? So in an ideal world, 3, 4, 5 weeks from now, Landry, Ratley, Higgins, if you ever get anything out of the tight end spot, those guys will catch a bunch of 10-yard passes that turn into 28-yard gains, because defenses will take that away, and because they will be so precise and so up to speed with what they want to do on using Odell to rub or to decoy, that those will get there. It's just taking time to get there. And I don't care. Sometimes there's going to be a play, and the Jets should have picked one off the other night the way the Titans did, where Baker tries to throw it in too tight of a window. It gets deflected in the air. You just hope it doesn't get pick sixed, right? But there's going to be times when, of course, you force it to 13, because if he catches it and spins off the first guy, we see what happens.
The band plays. You know, my favorite saying, the band plays when you make a mistake. Here's the deal. Then joke, like, there's passes, and I don't know the offensive play calls. I just know that you have a quarterback that's not getting the ball out quick, and it's not. And part of it is what you're saying. But the play where he killed the tight end, he was open. He was open in between the hashes. He waited to throw the ball at the numbers, and he gets upended, and his head almost bounces off. He won't take the check down right now. And because you say, this doesn't mean that he doesn't have a chance to be a great quarterback. But what you're remembering is he hasn't played 16 NFL games. What you're remembering is you got a young quarterback that's on his third offensive coordinator in a year and a half, in basically 2 seasons. In 2 seasons, it's 2 games in. There's a lot going on with Baker, and that doesn't mean that he can't still be spectacular. But there's a lot going on. I know Pat McManaman, newest member of the athletic team, talked about his wins and losses versus good teams and his numbers against good and bad teams right now. He has struggled against good teams so far. That's why this week is big against the Rams. Can you go out against a team? This got a guy like, I don't even want to think about what Aaron Donald will be able to do against this offensive line right now if he's healthy. But there are some things with Baker, especially against Aaron Donald and this defense for the Rams. You've got to get the ball out quicker. You can't wait, and it's progression. And it's funny because I was watching one of those FS1 TV shows that talk sports before we started this, and they were talking
Why
about
would you ever do that?
Because I was trying to stay awake. Usually it's what I nap to. But they were talking about Dak Prescott and how Dak is taken himself from a guy that was a dink and dunker to a guy that's going downfield now. Well, it all plays in. He's been in an offense for a couple of years. The guy that built the offense built it around him. He's got the same receivers, same running back. Offensive line is all gelled. And now all of a sudden he went from averaging 7.8 per throw. He's at like 11.1. He's doing more than even Patrick Mahomes is doing per throw. My point is, it's taken 4 years for Dak to get completely comfortable in an offense and in a situation to get there. And we still got a lot and I know that we've already kind of written and printed out the playoff tickets for the Browns this year. And we've already got Baker Mayfield on the way to Canton, but it's going to take a lot to get there. There's a lot to the process, and he's just not there yet. And it's frustrating to watch right now, Zach, because there are guys open underneath. He's just not throwing it to them.
Yeah. Well, two things. One, this week marks start 16 and exactly a year since he started. So this is the end of his rookie year, right? There's a lot. It's all there with Baker. It's going to take time. But you said something, and I'm not trying to make light of anybody's situation with this. If he doesn't start taking the check down, like you said, then he's going to be doing Blue Cross Blue Shield commercials because he's not going to last the season. Right?
You
he's
are
going
correct.
To get killed. He's got to get rid of the ball. Of course, quarterbacks get hit. Even good offensive lines are not going to protect for 7-step drops consistently. He's got to get rid of the ball, Aaron Donald or no Aaron Donald, because he is going to get killed if he doesn't.
Yeah. No, and it's frustrating to watch because that was the one thing that I thought he was great at last year. And maybe because the offense was dumbed down for a rookie. But it was no big deal for the third step. And that's what we bragged about. I can remember us talking that, hey, on the 5-step drop, on the 5th step, ball comes out. 7-step drop, ball comes out. 3-step drop, the ball comes out on that step. To me, that was awesome because usually young quarterbacks don't have that in them. We used to make fun of Colt McCoy because he was captain checkdown, right? Or Charlie Fryer because they were captain checkdown. Well, sometimes the checkdown is there for a reason. And right now teams are giving it to him. And if the checkdown is just checking down to Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb bounces around and gives you 11 yards or 8 yards, you take that and you make those safeties come up, you make those linebackers come up, and then suddenly 13 looks way easier to get the ball to.
All right, so I'm going to do a little something different for our American Fireworks Glory Days today. If you're new to the podcast, when we play American Fireworks Glory Days and we go back and we tell stories of sophomore year football and 6th grade basketball and just whatever else, and occasionally we mix it up a little bit. I want to talk about Odell Beckham today. I want to talk about it in this regard. And this is not a hot take, and this is not a diss on Odell Beckham. This is, as a matter of fact, a compliment to Odell Beckham. But I would start by saying this, Dre. If I could take this fat 40-year-old body and go back to playing, right, it'd be a little different because I'd have different perspective on things, right? Hindsight is a powerful weapon, right? I'd handle things differently. I'd work a little harder. I mean, hell, the way I look at it, I was probably like the 3rd worst point guard ever to play at Manchester, right? Well, if I would have been a little bit more engaged, and I was never going to be a super athlete, but if by the end I was ready to move on with my life. But if I'd have done a few things differently, maybe I'd have been like just the 5th or 6th worst, right? And here's what I think about Odell Beckham and his watches and his accessories and his visors and his complaining about being singled out. There's going to come a time in his life, and he's 26, not 16, where he's just going to wish that if he just did 6 months a year of whatever he wanted to do, Instagram modeling and whatever else, and 6 months of football, that he could have been even better, and he's got a chance to be one of the best ever. I just think, guys, he sits there after the game and complains about the visor and then talks about the one-handed catch and says, people don't understand how that's the darkest part of the stadium down there. So why do you need a color visor to start with? He comes out and he warms up. He wears the armband and whatever. And I'm not getting on him for accessories. There are a lot of guys playing sports at a lot of levels that wear the wristbands and the gloves and the sparkly things. And what the scouts will say is that's a sign that guy can't really play, right? And that's not the case with Odell Beckham. But if he's got to wear the armband, I'm sure there's a reason his body is as tuned as anyone's has ever been. Why does he warm up in a purple one before he comes out in the white one? These are questions that I have. And again, I'm not trying to be off my lawn. I'm just trying to say, if Odell Beckham ever just worried about football, my God, the Browns might win Super Bowls. Thank you.
I would stand up and give you. I would, yeah. I think that's the generation now, and this is where we're getting. Somebody tweeted me last week that I'm becoming more of my dad, and I'm standing like or something. They like basically were just like, I'm standing on my pulpit. They basically said I'm get off the lawn, guy. Like I'm getting old enough, and I'm like, damn, am I? And they're like, no, it's a good thing. But I just think we're at an age that we're like, why do we like all that other stuff doesn't matter? Go out and play. And I brought up Randy Moss, and I hate comparing Odell to Randy. I hate comparing anything, but Randy Moss is one of the best. I would say in the '90s, early 2000s, one of the best receivers we had ever seen, right?
No doubt.
And wasn't a diva, but just had moments at the Oakland part of his career, the end of Minnesota. Like, it just got ugly, and it didn't have to get ugly because he was just great. He played for Tennessee. Mostly, that's something he probably don't want you to remember either. But you just like we don't want that to be the thought process. You're an unbelievable athlete. You are the 1% of 1%. Why are we still dealing with bullshit that you deal with some kid that's trying to get recruited and he's really a 2-star and he thinks he's going to Florida State? Like, come on, man, get over this. Like, in true leadership. I'll give you an example. Lindor this year is not. He's only wearing like the fake turtleneck with the Indians on it, and he's not wearing stuff all over his arms and everything else. Like he used to have wristbands, and he'd have this, And I remember saying to him in like May, I was like, "What's up with no armbands?" And I go, "Going clean." And he looked at me, and he goes, "I'm going raw dog this year." He goes, and he started laughing. He goes, "No," he goes, "I just want to show my team it ain't all about being pretty and cute. We got to get dirty this year and play. So I'm not going to be wearing all that bullshit. I'm going out there raw dog, and we're going to play the game. We're going to play the game, the right way because that's how we got to grind this year." And to me, that was a statement of, okay, maybe Frankie's growing up a little bit, and he gets that that's how it's childish, but it's one of those things these guys think about, Zach. You know what I mean? Like he literally thought to himself, I'm not going to wear armbands, and I'm not going to do all this other stuff that I've done in the past because we got to come out and we got to play hard and we got to grind. And with some players, that's not Odell. There's some players in this league. Like, here, I'll do this. Let's do our top 5 wide receivers. I just saw somebody else do this. And you know why my top receiver is a guy down in Houston? Because he just goes out and balls, and you don't hear nothing else from him. Now, I know he may have some diva in him. They all do. But him or Julio is who I'd take as the top 2 receivers in the NFL right now because they go out and grind, and to take the Lindor word, they raw dog it. When have you heard Julio Jones be in the midst of any BS?
Very rarely.
Same with the guy, rarely. I mean, he got his contract done. He didn't have to go. He didn't have to record his coach and put it on YouTube. He didn't have to, he didn't have to wear a watch. He just goes out and plays. Same with Hopkins. They go out and play, and they play hard, and they play the game the right way.
Correct. Part of it is generational. You're right. And look, these guys are megastars, and they get paid to be megastars, right? And I know what it's like now for kids to get the Odell shoes and to rock certain things. I mean, because I was the same way, right? I wore the goofy socks,
right.
Wore the baggy white or the baggy black T-shirts because the Fab Five did, the black socks because the Fab Five did.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You did it. You did that. I get that. I'm just saying. I hope for Odell's sake because listen, he has been nothing but class with the media. Internally in the organization, you hear nobody say anything besides the fact that he works, that guys like him, that he makes sure he goes out of his way, understanding his status, to make sure that he builds a bond with lesser players and tells guys that he's there for them. I mean, you saw that a little bit in the preseason, guys wearing his shoes. These are kids. That means something to them, right? They're pros too, but that means something to them. That Odell Beckham. I just hope at the end that he doesn't regret being less about football because, my goodness, he's still going to have a monster career. And if he can stay healthy, you hear him talk about the calves and hamstrings, and look, this is what comes with it. I mean, when someone says, Odell, you were clocked at 23 miles an hour on the touchdown, and he says, I can get to 24 or 25. I don't feel comfortable when my car gets to that speed sometimes, right? Like, it's so unbelievable if you can keep him healthy and focused. I just roll my eyes at all. We're only 2 weeks into the bullshit, right? Just play
That's part of
football. Just score touchdowns.
Yeah, I hear you. Patrick Mahomes is going to break every passing record in football. I got to bring that out there because I know we're getting close. A couple of NFL things I want to bring up to you. He's phenomenal. What the hell's going on in Jacksonville? And we really are going through a change of the guard as we are having this conversation. Big Ben out for the season. Eli Manning no longer a starting quarterback. Those two were drafted in the same draft. Somehow, some way, the guy out in L.A. with the Chargers is still making babies and still somehow producing wins, even though they really shot themselves in the foot last week, Phillip Rivers and the Chargers in Detroit. All I could think was, Ali! That was just a bad loss for the Chargers in so many different ways. But I got to get to this. I saw someone bring up the Jalen Ramsey thing to you. They tweeted us. You gave a nice answer, and a guy tried to attack you. What is wrong with you assholes on Twitter? I like Jalen Ramsey, and I think he's an unbelievable corner. But something is going on down in Jacksonville that's just, and maybe they don't have any belief in the quarterback situation with what's his name getting hurt again. But it's like, come on, once again, it's a generational thing. I haven't seen somebody play. It's just like the Minkah Fitzpatrick situation. Said he wanted to get traded. They damn near traded him in 12 hours. That was amazing. That was amazing to me. I was like, wow, that's how the NFL works now. You just say you want to be traded. And Jalen Ramsey, they play tomorrow, right? They play like Thursday night, so they'll probably play in that game. But that's all weird. But I got to ask you this. I guess I should do the Ben and Eli angle. First of all, let's start since the Steelers are in the division. What did you make of the Minkah trade, and what did you make of what Mason Rudolph was able to do? And I text this and I believe it. I think the Ben injury will come back and they'll tell you Ben's been hurt for a while, or Ben will say that.
Yeah, well, he certainly wasn't the same guy, right? I mean,
no.
It feels like it was a deterioration that led to one pop, right? When they finally had to say,
right.
Okay. Look, I understand the Steelers took a risk there. But the Steelers are basically, I think people are missing what the Steelers are telling them. And right or wrong, we can't judge here in September. The Steelers are telling people two things. One, that Ben is their quarterback for 2 more years, right? And he signed that contract to do that. And 2, that they just think the world of Minkah Fitzpatrick, and he is their top 10 pick. They get him cheap for 3 more years, right? They just think that he is that. So we'll see how it plays out. We know in today's NFL that if you don't have your quarterback, or if you blow your chance to take one in the top 10, that you could pay for it for decades. But the Steelers are saying, we know what we're doing. So we'll see there. I mean, they obviously just think that highly of Minkah. They think that Mason Rudolph has a shot. I'm familiar with Mason Rudolph from his college career and from his pre-draft process. That's when the Browns were obviously still in the quarterback market. I've only seen him play in the preseason. I didn't get really – I saw maybe one possession of the Steelers game the other day. We'll see. It's a big transition for him. He has all the physical traits, and I don't know. Dre, I think the Steelers are taking a look around the division and saying, guys, we are not going to be 4-12. We traded pick 8 through 12, not a top 7 pick, and we'll see. Because anybody, with the exception of the Dolphins, you don't know how this is. We're 2 weeks in, right? The Jets are going to win some games when Sam Darnold comes back, right? Nobody knows how it's going to go with other guys, and frankly, it should be alarming as hell to see all these quarterbacks go down. It's a reminder that this could go in a hurry. And it's really a reminder to Freddie to not have Baker taking that hit. We don't want Garrett Gilbert playing. Garrett Gilbert's a great kid. Don't have Baker taking that shot at the end. It's stupid.
No.
On your 2 other thoughts, one, you were first to this, so kudos to you. Patrick Mahomes is going to be the best to ever do it. He just is. I mean, it's fucking freaky. There's no other way to say it. Going to be really fun to watch. We'll see how it all turns out, but he is on that path. And
he's unbelievable.
The NFL becoming the NBA is a discussion worth having for another day. We're out of time here. Yeah. In some ways, I don't think it's bad, Dre. In some ways, I think these guys earn it. As usual, it's all about the approach. It's all about the situation. Sometimes you just make your money and shut up and go play, which is what we talked about earlier in this podcast. And sometimes you do this because you want to maximize your career. And look, we know that there are some organizations that are so inept and incompetent that guys should want out. We've lived that for a long time here in Cleveland, right? So we'll see how all that works out. Shouts to you guys for listening. Shouts to Scene.
Well, let me ask you one question. Wait, one question. I want you to get that in, and then you get that in. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? Shout out to the Honeymoon Grill.
Yeah, listen, it's worth discussing.
Yes. We can hold it. We can hold it.
Considering some of the guys that have been in. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that later. We didn't get to our obscure Browns player of the week. We might still have another podcast this week, but that's our new segment presented by our friends at Cleveland Whiskey. We're going to dive a lot more into that. I have one cooked up when I think of Browns Rams that I think of. So hopefully we'll do another podcast.
All right, when we get done, I have to text you and ask you something because there is one I got too, and it's great, but I do not want to give it away. Right. So, yes, we will do that later on this week. Hopefully we can do it on Friday maybe.
All right, so quick Indians lay of the land. They play the Tigers, and then where does it go from here?
Play the Tigers on Wednesday, Thursday, then Friday, the Philadelphia Phillies and the guy that's got the richest contract in baseball.
Oh, yeah, we got the double Sunday Nighter in Cleveland this week. Congrats to whoever did that.
That was that ESPN. I got to be careful. Yeah, so that means quick. I'm glad you brought this up. Thursday night, STO, myself, Matt, and Rick won't be doing the game because Fox does the 7 o'clock national game. They're a national game. The Tigers and the Indians at 7 o'clock will be on Fox on Thursday. You won't have Matt, Rick, or myself. And then Sunday, it's an ESPN game, so you won't have Matt and Rick or myself on that game either. I don't know who was running the baseball decision-making at ESPN, thinking that having the Browns play on Sunday Night Football and the Indians play on Sunday Night Baseball is going to attract people to the stadium. I don't think it is. It's a punch in the gut. It's the last home game of the season for the Indians. So congrats on all of that that's happening. After that, we have Monday off. So Monday we can probably get together and do a podcast after the Sunday night game. And the team will take off Monday to go to Chicago, 3 in Chicago, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then the season ends in the capital, Washington, D.C., where the MLB screwed the Indians thoroughly because they're in a pennant race. And their last 3 games this season, they won't have the DH. So that's what you got.
Hey, one last thought. On Saturday morning, I went down to Jackson to watch little Mikey play flag football. And I just got to tell you, if he's going to get milkshakes this year, it's going to be from the Browns, not from his own team. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.